Welcome to De-Stress Your Business, the podcast where we show you how to get incredible results in your business without constant stress. I'm Alexis Kingsbury, a serial entrepreneur and co-founder at AirManual. I'm joined by my co-founder and co-host, Paddy Mann.
Good morning.
Yeah, we do normally do normal mornings, don't we? You see, this is the thing. We're doing quite a different episode today because today we're live and direct from Expert Empires, which is one of the UK's top events for entrepreneurs and small business owners. We've actually got our team here. We've got a beautiful stand at the break area of the event. And tomorrow I'm going to be presenting to over 500 business owners from the stage. Now, we've done a number of events before, but this is the first time that we've invested so much of our own time and money into it. And it's also the first time that we've had a stand for AirManual specifically. It's also the first time that we've come with a brochure and printed books and the scale of giveaways that we've had. And it's the first time, certainly to this event, that I've been joined by the wonderful Paddy and also by Jessica, one of our fantastic consultants. To be honest, there's been a ton of work involved. So today we thought it'd be useful to share with you a little bit about how we've been preparing for the event and the steps that we've been taking and are still taking to make the whole thing as stress-free as possible. So, Paddy, let's start off with how are we working to remove the stress from something like this, which could otherwise be incredibly stressful? I mean, events are, right? So what are we doing?
So, great question. And to be honest, there is a ton of work. So luckily, we did have our eyes open here. We have done events for other businesses about a decade ago of a similar nature. And you know, we know that setting up the stand, getting the brochures and different materials ready, working out what your sales team are going to do, working out what the speech is going to be, working out the presentation, all this stuff, they're big time sinks. And so we did start planning early. We kind of got this in the, and into a structure a couple of months ago. And what we're able to do is we treat it as an experiment because this isn't something that we've done 100 times before. We don't know just how much of an impact this is going to have for our business. We don't know for sure. It's looking fantastic so far. It's been a great audience. We've got a ton of great leads, had so many good conversations this morning. But, you know, before that, we didn't know just how successful it was going to be, whether it was going to be a good investment of our time and our money, of which there's been a lot. So it is an experiment. And so we want to make sure we take advantage of that opportunity. And a lot of it means getting myself and Alexis putting our time into it. So this isn't something that we know exactly how to do. We don't know exactly what gets results yet. It needs us to be involved to both work out the overall plan and make sure we're happy with it, but also the little details about what's going to be said and how we're going to talk to people, and about what's going to be on the screen and what's going to be in people's hands and all those little things. Because what we're hoping is that if it is becoming successful, then we work out what are the little details that we then want to replicate in future. And what we're doing is we're being smart about it. So as much as possible, we're reusing assets that already exist that we've been doing for our other marketing materials. It saves a ton of time, and there are things that we already know work, so we're reusing where possible. And when there aren't things that we have already, then although it's an experiment, because there is a big investment, even for this event, to create a stand and so on, we are being smart and we're thinking, how do we do it in a way that will make it easy to repeat the process in future if it is a success?
Fantastic. Love that. And I think one of the things that we've often sort of remarked upon along that journey has been how things have kind of stacked. So there have been things that we've developed or done that have built on work that we've developed or done before. So a good example of that, some of the like the assets that we've created, right? So talk us through some of the assets that we've created as part of this journey and what we've been creating.
Oh, so many, and not just so many, but some pretty big ones that required a big investment. So an example of actually some of the ones we've been able to reuse, we've got a brochure it's our Discover AirManual guide, and it talks about why we're doing what we do, the impact that we expect to have, the problems we're solving, the process that you'll go through working with AirManual, FAQs, customer stories, and so on. The good news here is that this is something that we needed in our business, even without having an event like this. We found it incredibly useful as a communication tool to give to new leads before they have a demo with us. We find it really a key part of our sales process anyway. So what we needed to do for the event was to get it into a print format, which sounds like a trivial task. It's like just put it in the printer already. Not so much. Getting it to exactly the right size. And the first version we printed out looks great on screen, looked awful on print. It took a lot of work, a lot of iteration, but that was one of the things we invested in. So we had a brochure. We also had a book, a guidebook, the Business Leader's Guide to AI and ChatGPT, which is a fantastic resource. You can find it online. We'll put it in the show notes so you can find that if you want. Again, we had an ebook that we were already using as a lead magnet for the business. We need to create a print version. So there's a bit of work there. We've got the stand. So first time we've had a stand for this business, for AirManual. Had to create that, and we made sure we did it in a way that would be really easy to reuse in future and really high quality. Really happy with that. We've had to create a video. We've got a TV screen at the stand because we want to make sure that people can actually see some evidence of the tool, of what it looks like, interspersed with some of the benefits they can expect. So we've created that. Then there's been all the checklists. So the guidance to the team on how to run the event or how to prepare for the event. So we've got an end-to-end checklist of all the things that need to be done to prepare, and that's all of it from logistics of sorting out flights to creating the assets to preparing the sales team, all those little steps. And I think when it gets down to nitty gritty, there must be like 100 checkboxes or more. We've got checklists in place that help us with some of the things that are being used outside of the event, like setting up a campaign and a lead magnet and the automations around that. And we've been building on top of those to add in the additional things that we've needed for the event. We've got some very specific checklists as well around new tools that we've had to use. So one of the things we're doing, we created the video internally. We found out we could do that using Keynote and QuickTime, and frankly, really happy with how that turned out. That's something we got done in the morning, and it's great. We'll be writing a separate post on social media about that experience. But the intricacies of how we did that aren't obvious and aren't necessarily things even we would remember. So that's been captured as a checklist. And a final checklist, in fact, I say final, but I'm sure there are other examples I've forgotten. Final checklist that I've been using is a training checklist that we've created for the team, so that when someone comes to our stand and someone that says, what's AirManual? So what are you guys about? We can give a consistent answer. And I tell you what, the answer we give is fantastic. It works brilliantly for this audience. And it means that right now, me and Alexis are sitting here, and we've left Jessica on stand. She's fantastic, but we know exactly what she's going to say and how she's going to do the conversation. And she's not going to get stuck in a conversation that lasts for half an hour and avoid other leads. She's not going to have a conversation that doesn't lead to actually getting someone's details. She's not going to have other ways. We know exactly, and we know that it's going to get results. So that training checklist has been another just a little thing where we've created it, it's delivering value, and we're going to have this asset for future events as well.
Yeah, I love that. And that, I think that's probably my favorite checklist, because although it provides huge value, I think exactly as you say, it means that we're able to be consistent and effective in those conversations. And I think the results that we've already had so far from the event are incredible and beating even our initial estimations of what would very good look like. And I think a lot of it comes down to the way in which that conversation is set up, the way in which we tee up how AirManual helps, the questions that we then follow up with to ask people about where they're at with their business and so on. But what I love most is how quickly it was produced. That checklist was created based on a quick brain dump that we'd had a conversation, we'd captured some notes. I shared that with Jessica. Jessica drafted a checklist with 7 high-level steps and some detail in it, which included how do we explain AirManual, what's the one-liner. a little bit of iteration between me and Jessica. You chimed in and had some others. We did a bit more iteration and then agreed, yeah, this is it. It's a bit long. It's not a one line. It's a little bit longer, but it lands it. And then we put that in place and so on. I think end to end, in terms of elapsed time, it was a day. And in terms of actual effort time, I think you're talking maybe 20 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, half an hour. But that checklist has enabled us to deliver this, very consistent experience for people that at the stand. And it's funny, at breakfast this morning, you've got me and Jessica basically going in a continuous loop where it's like, oh, how is so interesting. So what's AirManual? And da-da-da-da-da, go through it. And then like ending with the, so that's where essentially that's what AirManual is. And what about you? And it's like, well, I'm at AirManual. And so on. But we did that. And I think we probably repeated it, I don't know, 3 times each and got to the point where it's slick. And, but the core was that we had both independently gone through the checklist to learn it and memorize it so that we even felt comfortable doing the role playing. So she was able to do that whilst on the flight over. She's based in Spain, so she said fly over to London for this event. And so she's been practicing that. I've practiced it separately. And so we're able to bring that together. And I think that's powerful when you think about training your team. You don't want to have to spend the time in person just telling what you should do. You want the time when you're actually training in person to be the value add. It's the coaching, the practicing, the role playing, that you really get that kind of interpersonal time out of it, which I think is ultimately what you really want. So we've talked about what we did and putting into checklists and some of the assets and so on. How has it felt? Like, what's been the difference, or has it still felt stressful anyway? Particularly in the lead up to the event, like what's been the result?
Well, here's the funny thing, because if you look at any of the tasks, like setting up the brochure ready for print, setting up these checklists and so on, they can sound like chores. And if we as founders had to repeat those tasks every time, then absolutely they would feel like chores. They wouldn't feel like good use of our time, and we'd probably delegate it even though we weren't getting the results we needed. But what I love about the way that we run our businesses and about how we're showing other people how to run their businesses is we are essentially designing the systems. And for me, I'm here at this event. I've traveled down from Sweden to do essentially a sales and marketing event. And I'm not normally that active face-to-face and so on. And it's lovely to be here. And I love having the conversations and so on. And I wouldn't change that. But for me, I also know that this may well be the last event that I attend. And I can do that with absolute clarity on how future events will be run for my business and the quality that's going to be delivered. And I know that the sales script that they're using works. I know that the marketing assets and everything supporting it. I know that the product that we're providing answers, the right questions, and all these things fit together. And for me, that lets me move on to the next challenge, the next piece of the puzzle. And that's what I love doing. So, I'm not going to say that every little tweak to the print format to get that off to the printers was ideal. But knowing that it's a one-time thing, that we're fixing a problem and then moving on, and we're setting up something that can be scaled up and repeated in a consistent way, it's great.
Yeah, I think the thing that I found in terms of my stress levels is that by doing that, and you've done a fantastic job of kind of managing that side, it's meant that for me, I have been able to focus on my presentation. Like I've spoken at many events before. I've facilitated workshops with senior people and all this kind of stuff. But 500 people is my biggest audience. Yeah, I think my previous highest was maybe 350, 300. And the circumstances of that were different. It was a 10 minutes presentation rather than an hour, and it's a different beast in terms of what you can deliver, and the expectations of the audience are different and so on. So it was important to me to be able to prepare well in advance. This wasn't a task that I wanted to leave to, a deadline means I'll get it done. I wanted to prepare well in advance, and I wanted to make sure that the key messages I'm able to rehearse. So the stress for me wouldn't just be about, can we get the assets ready? It's, can we get the assets ready, and that I'm able to manage my mental energy, and I'm able to actually rehearse in a way that feels positive and not rushed and stressed. And that has happened. as in a positive way. I haven't been rushed and stressed. I have been able to prepare and rehearse. And so I actually feel pretty relaxed about the presentation tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I might be saying different, but I think that matters in terms of then what you deliver like, I mean, obviously personally for us it makes a difference, but I think it has an impact on the results that you then get. And I think often we don't talk about that side. You know, when we're talking about de-stress your business, often we're talking about we want you to have a change to your life. We want you to enjoy the journey. We want you to be able to spend time with family and not find work stress. We actually don't often talk about the impact that having a stressful work experience has on your results that you get and the financial performance that you have and so on. And I think it does. And so I really love that. What are you excited about seeing next? Because, you know, this is, as you say, it's a big event. We've already been kind of talking about other events and all those sorts of things. Like what you know, what in terms of both this event and the future?
Good question. So many things. Now, interestingly, we're at a kind of a moment and a plenty of turning moment in the business, and this is something that you're going to experience again and again as you scale up and you run experiments. And for us, this is essentially a large experiment. And over the coming days and weeks and months, we're going to see the impact of that. Because what we want to be able to do in the business is double down on things that are working well for us, rather than kind of diluting them, you know, trying to spread ourselves too thinly. We want to make sure that we're really focused on what's working well. And so I'm excited about what that might be. And it may be that we end up booking in a lot more events even this year. It may be that we're getting more capital into the business, and that gives us new opportunities. We're very excited about being able to scale up our marketing team, because at the moment we're doing amazing things with very limited resource, but we can see so many new opportunities for that. We can also see so many opportunities across the rest of the business. So that's what it is for me. I mean, continuing with that journey of identifying the next challenges and fixing them, and the excitement of knowing I think we've done a good job of this experiment. We are doing a good job of it, and we're going to be able to make some great decisions going forward about whether this is something we double down on and the results we can get.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. It's yeah, and I mean, I've attended a lot of events over the years, particularly more recently with quite a bit of speaking. But I mean, you know, I remember back in the days when it was just us, and I was attending events like this one. In fact, including one run by Nick James, that have had a huge impact on me. And I think that's the other thing that I really like about doing this as a form of our marketing. It's not just great for us as a business to be able to get out there, but also, you know, I remember what these sorts of events meant for me as an entrepreneur, and you know, the conversations that we'd have after them, the ideas, the challenging, the overcoming those self-limiting beliefs. Like the number of people that we talk to here, where one of the biggest challenges for them is just getting over the idea of I need to be doing everything, or you know, I maybe I'm not, my business isn't quite ready to hire the next person or whatever. You know, in the episode where I interviewed Denise Duffield Thomas, who actually we're going to be closing up so that we can go and hear her speak very shortly. You know, she talked about one of her first hires, like as a symbolic hire, bringing someone into the business. And I think those messages and being able to talk about that, you know, when I speak tomorrow, but also just people generally, I think it's so important. It properly changes people's lives when they have that kind of experience and apply that as a result in their business. So I'm really looking forward to not just what it means for us, but also like seeing that for other people. It's also been really nice, by the way, because in the scheme of things, particularly for our businesses, AirManual is in relatively you know, it's high growth. It's not in the late, you know, it's not a mature stage like our other software business has been going 10 years. What I really love is that we've been at the stand with existing customers coming over and saying hi and recommending us to other people and so on, and that's hugely validating, and something that you don't get that on Zoom calls and things like that. It's really nice to be in sort of in-person events, so I'm looking forward to that continuing over the course of the next couple of days. Before we close up so that we can go see Denise, any other closing remarks?
No, I think it's been a real pleasure. As I say, this event isn't something that I'm frequently involved in, and particularly I'm living in Sweden. We don't have the same kind of activity around in Gothenburg, certainly not in English, that you get in the in the UK. Unsurprisingly, really, it's my fault. I do need to learn Swedish, but it's been brilliant to come down and see that, and then see all the things that we've been doing up to this stage, building up, and the impact that's having. And I'm really excited, of course, to see Denise Dunford Thomas. Also, really excited to see how Alexis performs tomorrow, and a number of other speakers. It's been a great event.
Fantastic. Yeah, I completely agree. Excellent. Well, now, as regular listeners will know, we do run a weekly webinar when I'm not at events like this, and it's on how to free up 15 hours a week and unlock growth in your business. Typically, it's every Wednesday at 1 p.m. UK time, but you can find out more and register for the next available one at airmanual.co/webinar. And a final note for podcast listeners: if you're listening to this, if you're watching on social media, please help us out. Click a like, share it with someone else that you find that you think might find it useful. Like, share it with other people, because that really helps us out. But also, it'll help other people out there, because I think, doing big investments of time and money into these sorts of things is terrifying for business leaders of, frankly, any scale. Like, it's all relative, right? And so please do share this experience with other people if you think they might find it useful. And if you're listening on our podcast, please do give us a 5-star review if you're getting a lot of value out of our podcast. We really appreciate it. We also really appreciate the feedback that people give about, like, the episodes that they've listened to. And we sometimes get people telling us, like, I've listened to 7 episodes and I've then gone back and listened to them again, so on. Honestly, we really appreciate it. We cut, it's not something that we just expect. And so please do share your feedback. Let us know your thoughts. And if there's anything else that you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we'd really appreciate that feedback. Otherwise, until next time, have fun.